The first minute and 25 is from an old video of mine explaining the issue I had. The remainder is how the issue was solved. The heater was unable to be turned off. So here, it's set for pool. Okay, you switch the mode to, that's the off, okay? Can you see both lights are lit? Standby and pool? That shouldn't be. It should be just standby. So you have either spa, pool, or standby pool. Alright, and the problem with this is even though it's on standby now, I actually have to turn the propane off in order to make sure it doesn't eat through the whole tank, because there's no way of turning this off. It's right now the water temperature is 83 degrees, okay, and I think it's gonna fire. I just set it for 84. Alright, so let's see what happens. Right now it should be on standby, okay, and there it goes. It's firing. Let's see if it fires up. Yeah, so it just fired up. So there's no way to turn this, there was no way of turning this off with the set point above what the temperature is in the pool. Because here's the off. This is the off mode theoretically, okay? You can go to put, that's spa, pool, or standby. And it's running in standby mode. When I opened my pool in the spring, the issue was the most irritating, because sometimes the water would be 55 degrees and the lowest the heater could be set to is 65 degrees. So it was not possible to keep the heater from firing and running the water temperature to 65 degrees. I would have to put the heater into bypass mode and physically shut the propane off, which is what I would do. So after years of having to turn the propane off and putting the pool heater into bypass mode, I finally solved the problem. And I solved it because of my timer going bad, this thing. So I have an intermatic timer. My setup is extremely crude and old, but it works and it's fine. It's just an intermatic timer that turns off the heater and the pump. That's it. They're both hooked up together. Whoever did it electrically, they're on one timer. So they both go on and they both go off. So I realized last week that the timer wasn't keeping proper time. I came at 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning to walk my dog, and the pool was running. And I look and the clock was way off. I'm like, all right. I know you could buy a new clock for these things, so I sent away, since the pool is $240, I sent away for another intermatic timer. I sent away for the whole thing. When I got here, when it came in, I realized it was the wrong one. This is not weatherproof, and the box that I have is weatherproof because it's outside. So I didn't feel like sending it back. And I know you can take out the inside. You just push down, there's a little clip in here, and you can take out the whole timer mechanism. So I took out the timer mechanism and I hooked it up the exact same way as the other one is hooked up. I just took the wires one at a time out from this. I shut the power off. One at a time I took these wires out. I put the new wires in. I get to the very last thing and I look and I see this thing right here with 2 wires coming out of it. And I have no idea what it is. I never really gave that a thought. Now I've installed these intermatic timers before, but I'm like, what is this little thing? 2 wires coming out of it, going to the bottom, and they just have little wire nuts attached to them. And I look at what they're attached to. It looks like doorbell wire, like 24 gauge, thin, low voltage wiring. So what I forgot to mention is that the new timer didn't have that little switch, and I had no idea where it ran or what it was. Like, what the heck is this? Turns out this thing is called a fireman's switch, and they are on, this was the cause of my problem, okay? What is a fireman's switch? If you look carefully, and I don't know if you're gonna be able to pick it up with this GoPro, this works in conjunction with the timer. What it does is it turns off the heater about 15 to 20 minutes before the pump turns off. Let's say it's something that I've never needed and don't use with the way the setup is for me. What happens with me is when we go in the pool, we turn the heater on, or we turn the heater on if we're going to go in like later. We'll turn it on now. It goes a couple of degrees an hour, and in 4 hours from now the pool's 85 degrees. We use it, we shut the heater off. There's some people that keep the heater on all the time and maintain the specific temperature in the pool. Because we have a propane tank and not natural gas and we have to refill it, we don't do that. Let's suppose your heater and your pool were both running and you get to the end of the timer and it shuts everything off at once. Well, the pool heater was just propane fired in 1,000 degrees, let's say, to heat the water. If everything shuts off, there's no flow anymore through the heater. And you have 1,000 degree water, let's say, or 800 or 600, and it's not running through the heater. Well, now that little volume of water inside the heater heats up and it can destroy things. I don't know if it could destroy the heater or it can move to the PVC outside the heater. So what this little fireman switch does, turns off the heater just before the pump's gonna turn off, so that the water is still flowing through the system and it cools off the water in the heater first, and then the pump turns off and the heater is safe. So it kind of preserves your heater. Now, I have no use for this, okay? Because of what I said before, we don't need it. So I cut the wire. I wasn't sure what it was at first, but I'm like, this doesn't look like anything that I'm ever gonna need. I cut the 2 wires. Cutting those 2 wires solved my issue. Okay, I cut the wires and I capped them off. There was some kind of short in this thing that was causing the problem I had for the last 2 years. So if you're having a problem with your pool heater where you can't shut it off, which is the problem I had, where it's always on, where there's 2 lights on, first thing you should do, if you don't need this kind of setup, just cut those 2 wires and take the fireman's switch out of it, okay? If you do need this and you do run the pool fully automatically, you can purchase just this fireman's switch. It hooks up to an existing, what do you call this? Intermatic timer. It hooks up to an existing intermatic timer. It's just 2 screws right there, and you just slide it in. There's holes already for it, and there's 2 wires, and you could just replace it. I think it's about $40 I saw. So anyway, I know I'm talking a lot, but that is the answer. So my pool, I'll show you. We'll walk over there. I still am gonna keep it in bypass mode, and I'm still gonna keep the propane off because I've gotten so used to doing it. We had this problem for the last, I wanna call it the last 4 or 5 years, where you could not turn the pool heater off. So what we got used to doing is, here's my propane, shut off. Second propane valve, shut off. Besides shutting off the propane, we put the pool into bypass mode. The way you put the heater into bypass mode, it's kind of bright out here, so I apologize if you can't see. See, it says BO. You hold these 2 buttons, power the heat up and the mode. Now you see it's completely shut off. And it says standby, and there's no second light. So you can turn it spa, pool, or off. It is now officially fixed. But again, I'm putting it back in bypass mode. And like I said, I replaced the inner workings of that intermatic timer over there, and I merely cut the wires. Now I haven't opened this up to see where that fireman's switch hooks into the heater, but I'm sure it hooks into either the circuit board or maybe the pressure switch. It's something that prevents the pool from, it's something that turns the pool off or the heater off. Anyway, Anyway, so that's the answer. The answer is, if you can't turn your heater off, check the fireman switch. You can either disable it, replace it, or cut the wires and cap them like I did. On an automatic timer, it's replaceable, it's easy. I think it's something that most pool heaters have. Check with the literature you got with your heater. If you have like a Jandy heater, I'm sure they all have something. And I'm sure it's a fairly common thing from what I understand. Like I said, I did a lot of research and that was the answer. So thanks for watching.